Welcome to the Nick Blevins Family Ministry Podcast. Our goal is to help you maximize your church's potential. You'll hear from top leaders in children's, student, and family ministry about the principles and practices they use. Now here's your host, Nick Blevins.
Hey everybody, I hope you're doing well. Welcome to episode 114 of the podcast. In this episode, I talk with Gerald Fadayomi, a high school pastor at Brownsbridge Church, and we talk about high school ministry. They have an insane number of high schoolers that attend Brownsbridge High School Ministry compared to the size of the church. So we talk about what is that? What does Gerald think is underneath that? And we also talk about his new book, Before You Go. It's written to high schoolers, seniors who are graduating about what they need to think about and do before they graduate and head off to college, which we had on Nick Salyers just a few episodes back, talked a little bit about that as well. This is definitely something I'm passionate about because I feel like we can always improve here as a church and as ministry leaders. But before we jump into the interview, I have a big announcement for you. I've teased it in the weeks leading up. I said save the date, August 23rd in the afternoon. So the big announcement, which is probably not going to sound all that big as I say it, is that some friends and I, Kenny Conley, who's been on the podcast a few times, Kevin Monahan, who has also been on the podcast a couple times, are starting an organization called Ministry Boost. We're going to do, through Ministry Boost, a lot of the same things that we have done in the past couple years. If you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you're probably familiar with the Volunteer Playbook Group, a 10-week course helping people recruit more volunteers that I created last year, and we're in the third session of it right now. Or maybe the mastermind groups that we launched last fall. They're basically coaching networks for leaders like you and me. So we had 7 groups, a couple Kidmin groups, actually 3 Next Gen pastor groups, a youth pastor group, a multi-site group, all of that. So that was all great. We were doing that kind of under the banner of my site and all of that. But now we've created a new company called Ministry Boost where we're going to house all of that. And we really listened to everybody that was in the coaching networks this past year so that we could offer up even better and even more opportunities this coming year. So we're going to change that up. We're going to have lots of specific training options this fall, volunteer recruitment or implementing a coaching structure, preschool ministry, partnering with parents, aligning your next gen team, really the core things that most of us are interested in if you serve in children's, youth, or family ministry. So through Ministry Boost, we're going to offer that training, and then we're going to partner with U-League Coaching to offer coaching. And coaching will be similar to the mastermind groups we did before, or if any of you have been through U-League Coaching, you know what that's like. And part of U-League Coaching will include a free Ministry Boost course. So there's going to be a fun partnership there where you can get both of those things if you're interested. But it's all brand new. And to kind of kick things off, we're hosting a free webinar on Thursday, August 23rd from 1 to 4 p.m. Eastern Time. I mentioned a couple times to save that date. It's going to be a 3-hour free online event, kind of like a webinar. And we're going to talk about barriers to volunteer recruitment, partnering with parents, aligning your next gen team, empowering your volunteers to lead like staff. I know that's a big thing that we're all interested in. Creating a culture of student serving, how important that is for students, but how important that also is if you're the children's ministry person. And then small groups for kids and students. So we have a number of different speakers who are going to be part of that, including Kenny, Kevin, and myself, but also our friends Cindy Fiala and some others. We're also going to give away these bonus videos where we ask people what are the top 3 boosts that help you experience growth in your ministry. And so they'll answer that question related to preschool ministry or elementary or middle school, high school, or partnering with parents and different areas of ministry where they've experienced growth and what were the biggest 3 things that helped them do that. So there's tons more. We're giving away over $2,000 worth of free stuff like Orange Conference ticket, Orange Tour ticket, National Youth Workers Convention ticket. Our friends at trainedup.church, if you are familiar with them, are going to give away some 50% off codes for life if you want to use trainedup.church in your ministry. We're going to give away an iPad. Who doesn't love an iPad? But all of that just to kind of kick things off and give away as much free content and free training as we can to give a taste for what we hope to do through Ministry Boost. So now you've just listened to my however many minute pitch for Ministry Boost. But if you want to find out more, just go to ministryboost.org. You'll see a link there for the free online event. And I hope you'll register for that, take part in that. There's going to be a lot of great information shared there. Whether or not you decide to do something with Ministry Boost in the fall or not, that free event will be really helpful because each session will have a Q&A time where you'll be able to submit some questions, and we'll take as many as we can during each session to help you out. So that's it for me, sharing with you our big news. We're really excited about it. I know I've been helped so much through training, through coaching, and we're just hoping to pass that on. So I'd love to hear from you, questions you have. As you sign up for the event, what are the things you want to hear us talk about? What are the topics you're interested in, not only for the seminar, the online free webinar, but also this fall? I'd love to hear from you. But now let's go ahead and jump into my interview with Gerald Fadayomi about high school ministry and his book, Before You Go. Today I'm talking with Gerald Fadayomi. Welcome to the podcast, Gerald.
Man, it's good to be here. Love it.
Thanks for joining us, and I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about you and your family or church as we get started here. We're going to talk high school ministry, but give us an introduction to yourself for anybody who isn't familiar with you.
Yeah, my name's Gerald. I'm the high school pastor at one of the North Point campuses in Atlanta, Browns Bridge Church. Love getting to work with high school students. I'm married to my beautiful wife, Kylie. We've been married for just over a year. And she's also in ministry as well. And so, yeah, life is good down here in Atlanta. It's been raining all week, which has been miserable. But we're in the beginning of August, which is a fun time for student ministry. So, yeah, it's good.
Yeah, because things are getting started down there, right? Summer is like over.
Yeah, summer's first day of school was today. So, it's good.
So crazy for us Northerners because, like, we don't come back to school for literally almost one full month. It'll be September 4th. So it's almost a month from when we're recording, which is pretty crazy. So I want to talk high school ministry, which is what you do. And I think a common theme when I talk with leaders over the last probably 2 or 3 years, whether it's youth pastors or next-gen pastors, is that many of them are struggling to have a healthy high school ministry. And so I'm wondering, from your perspective, you get to speak to a bunch of different leaders and different camps, and plus you have your own ministry there. Have you seen that? And if you have seen it, what do you think are some of the key challenges or some of the things that we need to figure out?
Yeah, man, I think high school ministry is fun. It is definitely challenging. There's ebbs and flows, and so there's moments that feel really, really good, and then moments where you're like, good night. Why am I even doing this right now? Like, what? What am I doing? Yeah, man, I think everyone faces challenges with it. I think one of the big things that my team and I have been leaning into, we actually talked about that this week, is, the primary thing that we can focus on is getting ourselves to the feet of Jesus. And what's easy to happen in ministry, particularly in student ministry, because you're trying to keep up with culture, you're trying to get students in the door, you're trying to think of what games will be fun to do, you're writing a sermon, you're running logistics, you're figuring out, there's so much to do. It's really easy for us to become Marthas and to miss out on being Mary, where Jesus says, hey, Mary is doing the greater work. She's sitting in the presence of God and she's relying on me. And so one of the things that we've been trying to do as we start our school year is go, hey, like, what do we want to see God do this year? And then let's seek him in that. Let's ask him for that. Let's ask him to show up. And all the other stuff is really, really important. But the most important thing is getting in front of him and asking him to do something this year that none of us could imagine or explain on our own. And so, yeah, that's kind of where we've been, just getting our heart in the right place for the start of the year. Obviously it's super busy. There's a lot of challenges, a lot of things being thrown at us and a lot to figure out. But all of that is good, like being busy is always a good thing. So I'd rather be busy with a bunch of students than, be trying to figure out where they're at and what we're going to do. So
Yeah. How about high school ministry at Brownsbridge? How's that going? How long have you been in the role there?
Yeah, so I've been on the team here for almost 4 years. I was a groups director for about 2.5 years. I was recruiting and training, developing male small group leaders. Love doing that. Love getting to know our leaders. And then a little over a year now, I started in February of last year of 2017. So about a year and a half into being the director here at Brownsbridge. And it's going great, man. It's fun. It's really fun.
What are the high points? What's going well? Where you have momentum? And then alternatively, maybe where's a challenge that you're focusing on? You mentioned the focus, but is there anything else that's like a challenge you're trying to overcome?
Totally. Yeah. So where things are going well is August is our highest month of the year. Last year around this time, we averaged about 1,200 high school students coming through our doors every week. Our back to school bash, which was in 2 weeks from now, we had 1,500 last year. We're working towards 1,800 this year for that. And so there's a lot of energy, a lot of momentum, a lot of talk at schools about Inside Out at the start of the year. And so all of that is really great. It's a lot of work, but it's really, really great. I think the biggest challenge that we face is being able to provide quality small groups for students in the middle of that. We want as many students as possible to hear about the Word of God. And we think from stage that's possible, but for them to grow and actually understand faith and understand grace and have relationships and understand authentic community, it's going to take more than a message from stage. It's going to take a great small group experience. And so trying to get groups to a size that's manageable for small group leaders, where every leader can know every name, where students feel connected, where they feel like they have some friends that they can do life with, is probably the biggest challenge for the fall, because groups do get a little bit bigger and there's new kids and the students have a harder time sharing. And so we're just trying to figure that out, trying to figure out what it looks like to integrate new kids into our ministry, while at the same time create safe places in small groups.
Now, I think I know, but who knows? Maybe things have changed. Is your model still where high school students come on Sunday night to the church, it's about the only thing going on, and they have large group and small group there at the facility the same night? Is that right?
That's right. So students will get here between 4 and 4:30. We'll open doors around 4:30. 4:45, we'll do an opener. We'll do some hosting games, do 3 or 4 worship songs every week, a message, and then they have the small group. And then we do the world's cheapest dinner afterwards. We'll do like dollar tacos from Taco Bell or pizza or something like that. This is a chance for them to get to hang out in a more casual setting with their friends and their leaders. So.
We implemented, I would call that cheap dinner philosophy years ago. Actually, it was after visiting Gwinnett Church, I think. And we love that. And the scale at which, of course, you have to do it for 1,200 high schoolers, that's a lot of management there, food-wise. And trying to keep it cheap. That's probably pretty difficult, I would imagine.
Yeah, it's a lot of pizza.
Oh, yeah. Now, for some context, because a lot of people listening are like, man, 1,200 high schoolers, like our church is 300. You know what I mean?
Sure.
What's the average attendance roughly at Brownsbridge now total, on a weekend?
Gosh, that's a great question. I would guess around 4,000 or 5,000 in August on a Sunday.
Yeah. And to have 1,200 high schoolers, like forget it. If it was a church of 400 or 500 with 120 high schoolers, that would be crazy.
Yeah.
What do you think that is? Like, what do you think? I know I'm throwing this at you. You hadn't thought about this, but when I hear that, I was thinking that's unusual. A lot of, like I said, I think a lot of high school ministries are not maybe having the momentum they would like, but you've got something going on there where and in my opinion, your high school attendance is outpacing the church attendance. Any ideas what that might be or?
Yeah, the ratio is crazy. It should not be what it is. I really genuinely do believe it's all about small groups. I don't think it has anything to do with our programming. I don't think it has anything to do with like lights or sound or band. Like all of that stuff is icing on the cake to me. I think that a group of students 10 years back when we started our church realized that there was a safe place that they could really have authentic conversations where they could really be themselves. And that was so attractive to them that they started telling their friends about it. And before we knew it, we had to recruit more leaders in order to keep creating that same experience. And so I would say that, yeah, there's some flashy things that we do on the front end with games and music and hosting and messages. Like there's some of that on the front end, but I think the reason we're keeping students is because they found community and they found a place to call home. And then just like anything in student culture, right? Like once the majority of people are doing it, once the majority of people are talking about it, then it becomes the thing that everyone else wants to do as well. And so what's really cool is back to school bash last year, I mentioned we had about 1,500 students show up. There's about 15,000 students in our county. And so high school students in our county.
Wow.
And so 1 in every 10 students was at back to school bash. And at that point, it's kind of a cool thing to do, to go to church. And so, yeah, all of that to say, I think the foundation of a ministry is authentic relationship and community. And so if we can do a really great job of creating a place where students can belong and feel fully known, I think it'll grow. And it takes time. It took 10 years to get here, and I wasn't here for most of that,
Yeah. Yeah, and I imagine, because I see this a lot in the children's ministry world, where there's so many kids that you need so many leaders that now you're asking for a lot of, like a higher percentage of the church needs to serve in that ministry. Like in your case, you need a lot of leaders in high school ministry, more than, a lot of churches would need. Do you find that as a big challenge, recruiting enough help for all those high schoolers?
Yeah, finding leaders is definitely hard. We have a couple of strategies that we use. One is our senior pastor does a message every year, just compelling our church to serve, that if they're not serving somewhere, they should. Also just with culture the way that it is today, most people don't attend church on a regular basis, at least every week. They're usually coming twice a month, if that. And so the pull is a little bit bigger than the 3,000 to 5,000 that we have showing up on a Sunday. There's probably a few more people than that are actually coming. So constantly just pushing from stage, hey, we need volunteers. We believe in the faith of the next generation. We need some people who could be willing to help out. And then one of the things we do is called Alway Hustle. And it's literally, we will show up on Sunday mornings and walk through the halls and look for people who look like high school students would like them. And then just ask them, hey, do you have a relationship with Jesus? Let's talk about that. Because if you do, we have a place for you. And that sounds so crazy, man, but it works. One of my favorite small group leaders, actually, I watched his baptism in main service, in our adult service. And I just emailed him afterwards. I pulled his email out of our system and said, hey, dude, I watched your baptism. I thought it was super great. And I feel like you would be able to relate to high school students. Would you consider serving in our high school ministry? And he emailed me back and said he had been praying about serving somewhere and he didn't know where. And so I think when we step out and when we make asks, I think we find people, who are just waiting for someone to go, hey, like, you could be good at this, or you can make a difference here. Jesus says the harvest is plenty, but the workers are few. But I think if we just go and ask for workers, we can find some people who would invest in the harvest of students in our counties and our communities. So it's hard. It's challenging. I find myself at Starbucks and in hallways looking for cool people who know Jesus. But every year, for some reason, it works out. So we just keep searching. We keep plugging away. And God has been faithful and good in it. So.
Alway Hustle. I love it. That's awesome. In fact, when I talk with leaders in children or student ministry, a lot of times you realize there's not a lot of recruiting hustle, period. You know what I mean? If you really dig down deep into it, a lot of us don't spend enough time recruiting one-on-one or in conversation or whatever. Sometimes that's all you need to get the leaders. It's hard work, but the all call or the stage announcement sometimes isn't enough, so that's good. I want to obviously talk about your new book. Before you go, it's releasing here. It's already got some momentum before it's even released, which is awesome. But it hits a topic that I think anybody who serves with students is going to be interested in. So tell us about the book and why you wrote it.
Yeah, the story behind why I wrote the book is actually really interesting. It was our spring retreat, and a bunch of our graduated seniors had come back in town to just serve and volunteer. And I said, hey, would y'all want to go to Waffle House, which any college student in America who gets invited to Waffle House is going to say yes because someone's paying for their food. So we go to Waffle House at about 11:30 that night, and we ended up staying there until about 1:30. And I was just asking them questions about their faith and how our student ministry had prepared them and how we missed the mark and where we failed them. And I got back in the car after that conversation, and I just wrote down 10 of the things that they had said to me, 10 ideas that I had kind of gathered from our conversation. And I wrote them down to share with our next senior class to hopefully better prepare them for what was ahead. And so I did that. I shared it with the next class. I got some great feedback from leaders and students. And I decided I'm going to write this out and just give this to the graduating class as a resource as they go into the next season of life. And so I wrote it all out, and I asked those seniors that I went to Waffle House with, I said, hey, would you be willing to write a letter to the next class that's graduating and just encourage them in these 10 areas? And so each of them wrote a letter. And before I knew it, I was looking at a document that I was like, I think we could maybe publish this, and hopefully it would help more people than just the seniors in our ministry. And so the book is called Before You Go. It's 10 things to help students continue to follow Jesus and grow in their faith after high school. It's very, very practical. Each chapter is broken up by a letter from a student, a few pages of thoughts from me, and then some discussion questions that students can either answer on their own or they can answer in a small group setting together. So I took all of my high school interns down to Big Stuff this summer just to hang out for a week so that they could see Big Stuff and understand how it worked. And then every night we would sit down and we would debrief, and we would go through a couple of the chapters out of the book together and have conversation. And it was really cool just watching them start thinking about college in a different way and start making a plan for following Jesus when they got there. So that's the book in a nutshell.
That's awesome. It's a great idea. We've been thinking, I know in our ministry, we've added a few new things the last 2 years to try to prepare seniors better for when they leave during their last year. So here we are about to start a school year. How can students and leaders both use it this year, like now? You know what I mean? Not at the end or after they've graduated. What do you think? Is that something they could read throughout the year? Like we're doing, we're integrating other things into our normal high school programming, but it's specific to seniors. And when I saw this, I thought this could be a good addition too. You know what I mean? Yeah. Go through this and talk about these 10 things.
Totally. Yeah. There's a couple of different ways that I think it could be done. One, I think you could take one chapter a month and pull your seniors out once a month and have them sit down together and work through that chapter and answer the questions and discuss it together. There's action steps to go with each chapter so they can work on that action step for the month, and then you can do it again the next month. So that covers 10 months out of the year, which December is pretty much a wash anyway, and then they graduate in May. So that pretty much works for the calendar year. The other option, it's something that we do over at our church, is we take January to May to invest in our seniors. And so every week they actually are pulled out of our Sunday environment after worship, and we go and we do different content with them to help prepare them. And we talk about finances, and we talk about community, and we talk about how to find a church when you get to college. And so we've been doing that for a few years now. And so if there's a system like that that's kind of built in where you pull your seniors out a second semester before they graduate, I think this book could be a great resource for them to walk through the 10 chapters there as well. So it is very much set up to be used as a small group discussion tool. But it's also set up where if you want to keep your seniors in with you guys each and every week, and you just want to hand them something when they graduate, it's set up where they can process through it through the summer and be prepared for when they do the fall as well.
That's awesome. It sounds like what you do when you pull seniors out is similar to what we do. We try to do one thing a month, almost the full year, like starting like October. But it's very new for us. So I'd love to hear, how did you create that? How did you come up with the content? Do you have guests come in and talk to them about stuff? Like, what does that look like practically when you pull seniors out and give them that, specific content just for them as they get ready to graduate?
Yeah, totally. So we tweak that every year. It looks a little bit different each year. The idea actually did not come from me. It's called College Prep, and we've been doing it as a student ministry at large between all of our campuses for probably 5 or 6 years now, maybe a little bit longer than that. And so there's some video curriculum that we've had recorded. Willie Giglio's done some videos. Andy Stanley's done some videos. A few other people have written some content that's particular to seniors to help them get ready for what's ahead. We did a senior night last year in January where we put all of our seniors from all of our campuses together. And I had a night with Andy where he helped them understand theology a little bit better and their understanding of the Bible. And so, there's a system in place that was created long before me. But there's some great video content to go along with it that we've been able to use over the years. So.
That's awesome. So When's the book release?
The book releases on August the 18th, which happens to be my 29th birthday. So.
Oh, man. Happy early birthday. I'm the 16th and 2 days before.
Come on.
I wish it was my 29th birthday. That would be awesome. It's more like 10 years later, but that's cool. That's fun. So anything else special going with the release of it? I know you have a number of people that are kind of like on the launch team and have been talking about it. I've seen it on social media and stuff like that. Where can people get it? Amazon?
Yeah, it'll be on Amazon and orangebooks.com. It'll be available there. And then before you go, project.com, you can go there. There'll be information for the book there. There'll be links to purchase it. And there's also a few videos that I've had just some good friends of mine who are in ministry as well record as a resource to student pastors. And so those will be released at random. But there'll be some video content that's out that you can use to show to your students, or even just content that you can take and write sermons or messages on your own as well. So.
That's awesome. Yeah, I saw when you were, sharing a little bit snippets of that on your Instagram and stuff of people doing those videos, which is really cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I think all of us in churches obviously need to do probably a better job of preparing high schoolers for what's next. And I love hearing that you're talking about finances and college and for us, I feel like we've missed it a little bit here. It's only in the last few years that we've started to do that too. And some of it's just been feedback from college kids who have come back
and their parents. And, they're talking about year one and year two, and it's kind of the obvious things, but it's almost like, why weren't we helping with that as a church? You know what I mean? Like, we totally could help with that. Why haven't we been helping with that?
Well, what's interesting is when you read the book, you will read it and go, duh, like, this is common sense. And a lot of it is common sense. But it is not common sense to a high school senior. And it's not stuff that, because it's so common to us, it's really easy for us to not talk about those things. For example, like, just when you go to college visits, visit local churches in the area and make your decision on what college you're going to go to, partially based off of you can find a church home. I know so many students have never even considered that idea. And so I think it's really easy for us to kind of get caught on the motions, and get students graduated and feel really great about that, but miss the mark along the way. Earlier this year for me, I came to the realization that I had it a little bit backwards in my own mind. I thought that salvation was the finish line for my students. And so if students decided to follow Jesus before they graduated, I was considering that a success. And I quickly realized that is not a measure of success. That is the starting line, not the finish line. The measure of success is that students meet Jesus while they're in high school, and then they choose to follow him for the rest of their life. And so I want to get them to the starting line early so that I can use the rest of their high school years to prepare them for a world where they don't have built-in community, where they actually have to go and find me, to prepare them for a world where the people are attacking their faith and they actually have to have a firm foundation, and to prepare them just for a life of actually following Jesus and the disciplines and practices in that. And so that's the finish line for us. And so I think this resource will help students continue to follow Jesus as they get through the next 4 years of their life.
Yeah, it's good. And it's a big jump. All of us that have been there, anybody that grew up in church or at least went as a high school student and, going into the young adult, college years, whatever, it's a big jump. It's a big deal. Like, there's a lot that you have to own your faith so fast. Like, hopefully you've already started to own it. Everybody does. And hopefully as churches, we're doing a good job. But man, it's like microwave. It happens real fast once you get off in there. And I love that you've written this book, that your church is intentional about helping prepare students. I love that we're trying to be more intentional about it as well. And we're bringing back one of our college students who, was just graduated last year. He's going to come back and talk about, as what we're hoping to do, is bring him back and talk to seniors this year about his experience. What he would do different. What was that like? You know what I mean? Because there is just so much that they would love to hear from, those students who are a couple years ahead, been there before. So I'm excited for our seniors to hear that, right from them. Maybe they'll listen to it even more than they listen to us and other leaders, because it's a college student. We'll see. Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you so much for taking time to be on the podcast. How can people connect with you? They can get the book on Amazon. They can beforeyougoproject.com. Is that right?
Yep, that's right. And honestly, that's the easiest way. My last name is so difficult to spell that if you try to look me up on social media, you probably won't find me. So if you just go to beforeyougoproject.com, you can find links to social media, to the book, to all of that stuff there.
Cool. Well, thanks for taking the time to be with us, Gerald.
Thanks for having me. It was a blast.
Wow. I don't know about you, but I was floored, not just at the number of high schoolers. 1,200 high schoolers. Most of us can't relate to that at all. We're in churches, right? And most people listening to this are in churches of 200, 300, 500. Maybe there's 1,000 and you have 50 high schoolers. But forget the number of high schoolers, just the number of high schoolers compared to how large the church is. Could you imagine that? That's crazy. And I love that he says he thinks the root of it is small groups. And so I think that's one of the action items for us, is to evaluate how our small groups are for high schoolers. Because if that's the thing that's going to help draw them in and give them a place to belong and help grow your ministry, well, maybe we should evaluate how well we're doing. Obviously, I think an action item would be to get the book, read that, get that in the hands of seniors, maybe parents or leaders who work with seniors. And maybe, kind of like we talked about in the podcast with Nick Salyers, you're going to think about what's our plan to equip seniors while they're here the last year before they head off to what's next. And this book might be part of that. You can get all the links in the show notes at nickblevins.com/episode 114. Again, Ministry Boost is launched. We have that free online event on August 23rd from 1 to 4. You can sign up at ministryboost.org. Just click that free online event link at the top there. And we hope to see you on there. Again, email any questions or topic suggestions, anything you think about for the webinar, but also as we look ahead to fall and try to create the best most practical training help for leaders and coaching. We value your input. So you can email me anytime at nick@nickblevins.com. Thanks for listening. Hope you have a great week, and I hope we'll catch you on the webinar on August 23rd. See you.
Thanks for listening to the Nick Blevins Family Ministry Podcast. We hope this helps you maximize your church's potential. We would love to hear stories of how you apply what you've learned. You can do that by leaving a comment on iTunes or in the show notes at nickblevins.com.